now and then, there comes a time during these debates where someone just manages to so effortlessly put someone like Rabbi Shmuley in their damn place. And this time, that was Aaron Mate. And he did it in such an eloquent way. That's what I appreciate about this. He didn't have to yell. He didn't have to like scream or anything like that. He did it in such an eloquent way. And I think that's part of the reason why this particular debate went viral. That's right. Rabbi Shmuley versus Aaron Mate on Piers Morgan. We're going to get started with this part of that debate first. Check it out.
There's a lot to respond to. There was an election in Gaza.
2006.
The people of Yes, and what happened
20 years
was,
ago, there was an election for 4 years.
Excuse me,
and they haven't allowed
I
elections.
didn't interrupt you, Rabbi. I didn't interrupt you.
Thank you.
There was an election. The people in the West Bank and Gaza voted for Hamas, and how did Israel and the U.S. respond? Not being generous to Gaza, as Rabbi Shmuley falsely claimed, putting it under an inhumane, crippling siege, depriving it of all the basics people needed to survive. Even certain types of hummus were banned from entering Gaza under Israeli rule. That's the benevolent Israeli occupation that Rabbi Shmuley wants us to believe in. The reason why Hamas turned to armed resistance against Israel on October 7th is because they tried all other means. When Palestinians launched the Great March of Return in 2018, tens of thousands of people marching peacefully, they were gunned down by Israeli snipers. When Hamas leaders accepted the Arab League peace proposal of a two-state solution, accepting just 22% of Palestine, their historic homeland, Israel said they wouldn't even discuss it. So that...
Pause for a second. So this part is important because when people talk about the armed resistance, what Aaron is doing is walking you through the history so that you can understand that that was the last resort. It's not like they woke up one day and said, okay, we're going to arm ourselves. No, that was the last resort. This was after they tried everything else. This was after they did peaceful protests and the IDF shot at their feet. And you can still find all this online, by the way. This is after they've tried everything else and tried to find ways to basically get Israel to try to give them some type of humanity, some type of dignity back for their people. So that was the last, straw. And oftentimes, and this is why I say this is why I say the history is important, and don't just start with it all started on October 7th. Because if you say that, you're ignoring everything that led up to October 7th. So that's important for people to get.
Answers the question of why Hamas has turned to armed resistance, because when they've tried to pursue the diplomatic path, Israel has ignored them. And that's the fundamental problem here. Rabbi Shmuley mentioned countries in the region that don't have electricity, whereas the other other countries thrive. Well, all those countries that Rabbi Shmuley mentioned, Iraq, Syria, Lebanon, they share another thing in common with the Palestinians. They've been relentlessly attacked by U.S.-Israeli aggression for years. The Iraq War, for example. Syria, Israel's stolen the Golan Heights, is currently stealing more territory today. Lebanon, Israel invades in 1982, kills tens of thousands of people, occupied it for many years, recently undertook a new round of massacres. So if Rabbi Shmuley cared about the people of the region and all Israel apologists, what they would simply do is say, for the first time in our history, we're actually going to accept the right of Palestinians to have their own land, not come up with these fantasies of ethnic cleansing, which Israel has tried to do since its founding in 1948, say, we're actually going to recognize the rights of Palestinians to have self-determination, which everybody in this world has. And the reason why they don't accept that is because they're a Jewish supremacist state founded on this idea that Jews are superior, have a biblical right to all this land, and that's why they're pursuing their current path.
Aaron, let me ask you this.
So, of course, here comes Pierce to interrupt, right? So what I thought was pretty interesting here is that, again, we always have to stress on this show, religion is a belief. And in the United States, we do have separation of church and state, right? Imagine if we didn't have that here. And imagine if religion was the law of the land. Then you have to ask what religion is going to be that law of the land. So considering America's history, it would probably be Christianity, right? But then even within Christianity, you have different denominations of Christianity. And I say this as someone who grew up in the church. You have Pentecostal, you have Methodist, you have Baptist, you have So then you have to decide like which denomination is going to be the law of the land. And I just said this before, and I've said this also to Professor Morandi when we were talking about Iran. I do not believe that law should be based on religion. I don't believe that religion should be the law of the land. I feel like you do run into a certain type of danger with that. And it can become an excuse for what Israel is doing, right? So if you use the excuse that Israel is a Jewish state, this is for people who practice Judaism, it's for that faith, but it goes from that to we only want people who are Jewish to be here. Now you're looking at ethnic cleansing. Now you're looking at a sort of supremacy. And this is part of the reason, and I've said this over and over again, you really have to let people live, right? And that's not what they're willing to do. This was the plan from the beginning with Zionism. That was the plan, to get them out and to have Israel expand because biblical text says so. But religion is a belief. And I really want people to start responding to people that way. Like when you guys have these conversations, whether it's with friends or family that may feel differently about this than you, that's what you hit back with them. Hit back at them with that religion is a belief. And everyone believes that their religion is the right one. So think about that. So here comes Pierce to interrupt.
Aaron, on this issue of power, for example, electricity, I've explained how the process works. So Israel supplies more than half of Gaza's power. They get $11 million a month from the Palestinian Authority, which is gained from tax revenue from Palestinians. So it's a quid pro quo, if you like. But as we look forward here, my question, and I think it's a perfectly good one from Rabbi Shmuley there, is Hamas were given billions of dollars, over $6 billion it's reported to have been given. And they could have gone one of many ways, right, with that money. They could have built a more prosperous Gaza if they wanted to. But instead, they spent or squandered that money on effectively building a terror network amongst the civilian population and then unleashing hell on October the 7th against the people of Israel.
So the pushback that I give on this is this: when you have occupied a group of people and you say, oh, here's some money, go build some stuff with it. When you are occupying people and they are fenced in like they are cattle, you don't get to tell them how to spend that money. You get what I'm saying? Because I would have assumed most of the people in Gaza would have wanted their freedom. You keep your money and let the people be free. Let the people move freely. But you don't get to occupy people and then throw money at them and say, now let me tell you what you're going to do with that money. No, that's not how this works. Very, very, and of course, Pierce, of course, very pro-Israel, right in the Zionist back pocket. He doesn't understand. When he's speaking here, he doesn't understand how ridiculous that sounds. Well, they were given money and they decided to do something else instead of doing what they were told to do with it. The people are occupied. The people are oppressed. How much more control? That was their one way of not having some sort of oppression over them. That was their one method to say, okay, you're controlling everything else. You will not control this money. And I really do believe that Pierce knows this, but I feel like he has to put on this act because of the relationship that he had with Rupert Murdoch. That's what I believe.
What they didn't do was make Gaza self-sufficient for energy or water or anything else. And my question would be, well, why didn't they? And as a result of that, what's your view of what's now happened?
Well, my answer is they were not allowed to. Israel subjected Gaza under Hamas's control to a criminal blockade, preventing the very reconstruction materials that Gaza would need to build the electricity. They bombed Gaza's power plants, took it offline. They've destroyed the water infrastructure well before October 7th. The basics that Gazans need to live have been denied to them. An Israeli minister famously said, we're going to put the people of Gaza on a diet, by which he meant we're going to allow in just enough food so that people can survive without a full-blown starvation crisis, but they're going to be hungry. So if you want to know why Gaza has not built up the infrastructure that it needs to survive, the answer is the Israeli occupation. Even before October 7th, the UN was warning that within a few years, Gaza would not be livable because of the inhumanity of the siege. So there's your answer. You can criticize Hamas. There's plenty to criticize there. My friends who live in Gaza are not fans of Hamas. They would love to have somebody different. But I'm not going to hold occupied people accountable for the crimes of their occupiers. And unless you understand that Gaza has been subjected to a criminal blockade as part of one of the world's longest running and cruelest military occupations in the world, we're not going to be able to resolve this conflict.
Right. And Rabbi Shmuley,
He knows, Aaron. He knows, and he understands. Let's go to the next part that I want to get to here of this conversation, when Aaron pretty much basically gives Rabbi Shmuley the business. Here we go.
Adam's also a nice, beautiful name, but Aaron's a better name. Good biblical name. Moses' brother. You're a high priest. Did you really tell me that Israel stole the Golan, the Golan Heights? Did you really want Assad to have it while he was gassing Arab children with mustard sarin gas, with poison gas? Do you want Al-Julani? Do you want Al-Julani to have it right now? Did you watch the videos of what Al-Julani did to the Alawites over the past week? Have any of you seen a single demonstration? They took Arab men and shot them in the frickin' head, and then learning from Hamas, posted it all on Instagram and on X, and you guys haven't said one word. You know why? Because you don't really care about Arab life.
all right, well, what did we...
Rabbi Shmuley is definitely an actor, right? Like, can't you guys tell this from the way that he performs? Yes, Israel did occupy the Golan Heights. That's not a lie. You can see this for yourself. You can look up that information for yourself, of course. And Rabbi Shmuley knows this. This guy is so fake, is so performative. I don't know how people fall for this. I really don't. I don't know why people can consider and look at this guy and think that he has some type of cred. Okay? I don't care if he hung out with Michael Jackson. In fact, that makes me even more suspicious of you, right? Because Michael, you were probably one of the people he's trying to get away from. Hello? But I can't believe that people would look at this guy and actually take him seriously. I do not believe this. I don't understand. This guy is a clown. He is a joke. The mighty leprechaun. They're luckily delicious. This guy's ridiculous. I cannot believe this. People look at this guy and really think that he is serious.
To demonize Jews.
Why do we let him get a word in anyways? I think Aaron has said something about this. Let Aaron respond to that, because I think you have been saying things about it.
Yeah. Just an historical point. Israel stole the Golan Heights in 1967, long before Bashar al-Assad was in power. Second of all, if Rabbi Shmuley is upset,
let him speak, please.
Okay. If Rabbi Shmuley is upset with the atrocities currently being committed, he's right, by this Al-Qaeda offshoot that now rules Syria. He should be criticizing governments like Israel and the U.S., which took credit for this former Al-Qaeda leader taking power. Netanyahu, after Assad was overthrown, gave a grand speech saying we deserve credit for this because it was our crushing of Syrian allies, Hezbollah, plus, by the way, the hundreds of Israeli airstrikes on Syria over the years, and also arming insurgent groups that helped bring about Assad's fall. So if you're upset about that, Rabbi Shmuley, take it up with Netanyahu, who openly took credit for helping bring about the ouster of Assad. Now, I want to say something now. I'm not a religious person, so I can't claim to be a devout Jew, but I got to say, Rabbi Shmuley, you don't speak for me. Accusing people like my friend Omar of anti-Semitism simply because he wants the freedom of his people, it saddens me to see what people like you have done to the Jewish tradition. The suffering of my family, my great-grandparents perished in the Holocaust. They were murdered by the Nazis. And today, I have to tell you, I see you as the modern-day followers of the Nazis, supporting this mass murder campaign in Gaza, putting the people of Gaza in what even Israelis have called a concentration camp. It's the Israeli Jews of today, supported by American Jews, unfortunately, some, that are following in the footsteps of our oppressors. And I hope one day you can connect to your own humanity and the very best of your own tradition, which I believe in, to see just how horrible this modern state, this modern supremacist state, is not only for the Palestinians,
you can't
but the Jewish
seriously,
people as
Aaron,
well.
you can't seriously.
What was interesting about that is he didn't yell. He didn't raise his voice. You know, he said it in like his own little way. You guys know how Aaron talks. He said it in like his own little way. He didn't have to raise his voice. And what does Rabbi Shmuley do? He looks away, right? What is he supposed to do after that? This is the danger. Piers Morgan had to come in and try to save Rabbi Shmuley right now. That's what Piers Morgan is doing, right? So he got his tap on the shoulder. So he got to come in and try to rescue Rabbi Shmuley. Because what does Rabbi Shmuley want to do? He just looks away. Because Aaron Mate humiliated him. What are you going to say? Are they going to look at Aaron Mate and call him anti-Semitic? He's Jewish too. Sometimes in history, people who have been through some type of oppression, there's a saying called hurt people hurt people. Sometimes they in turn hurt other people. Sometimes they may think that because of what was done to them or to their people, that they now should be held in such higher regard. And then they become the oppressors. And that's what Aaron was trying to tell him, which I think Rabbi Shmuley kind of knows. And if you've been brainwashed to believe that this is what you're supposed to do and that it's owed to you, this is the danger of that. And we talk about the people and the land. Let's be real. Rabbi Shmuley is not, they're not indigenous to the land. You have settler colonialists who moved there, changed their name to make it seem like they're indigenous. That's what you have. And push the indigenous people out. That's what you have. So Pierce has to come in to try to help Rabbi Shmuley, to help him get out of this mess.
Seriously, be saying that Rabbi Shmuley, one of the most high-profile Jews in the world, is a successor to the Nazis.
Is a Nazi.
I mean, that's a pretty despicable.
I am saying that.
That's a pretty despicable thing to say, isn't it?
He supports the mass murder of children in a concentration camp. What else am I supposed to?
May I respond to that? May I respond?
I think you should respond to that.
These are Nazi tactics.
Aaron.
So because he's high profiled, he can't be an asshole. So because he's high profiled, he can't be an oppressor. So because he's high profiled, he can't be cheering on the murder of children. Get out of here. Piers Morgan, you can't believe that Piers Morgan says this stuff behind closed doors. I don't believe it. I believe he knows the truth, but that's not his job. His job is to go on there and to basically lick the boots of the Zionist lobby and all this kind of jazz and to put on the show that they want to see. That's Piers Morgan's job. Because honestly, he wouldn't have that career. He probably wouldn't have that career if he told people how he really felt. So he's a fake too. So you got Piers Morgan, who's fake, and you got Rabbi Shmuley, who's out there selling dildos, also fake. So you got fake and a fake, two fakes. Lying to people, to the American people. If you look at Piers Morgan's Twitter post about this particular issue, he'll say certain things on Twitter that he won't say on the show. So I would say if you really want to see how he feels, look at his Twitter posts. Look at some of those. That's how you know it's a performance. That's how you know that he's acting. We'll go on a little bit more here.
They're Nazi tactics.
Aaron, notice I have not once offended, used that hominem attacks against Omar or you. I have decided that I'm going to be factual. No, excuse me. You won't interrupt me. Omar started calling. Excuse me. Omar started calling me a liar. He wouldn't deal with any facts. A hypocrite. He said I'm drunk on lies, et cetera, et cetera. That's what we call ad hominem, personal attacks. I've seen it whenever, and I debate everybody because I like Pierce, and this is why I love this show. I'm also a free speech absolutist. The person who just called a Nazi spent the past year with his friend Ron Dermer, who was condemned by Adam Bowler because of our close relationship from my years as rabbi at Oxford. He was my student president. And Bobby Kennedy Jr., the new HHS Secretary of Health and Human Service, saving 200 Palestinian children who had cancer. Hamas would not let them go to an Israeli hospital because they would kill their families if Israeli hospitals treated them. Shaare Tzedek or Sheba Medical, all of whom agreed to take them. We had to take them to St. Jude's Hospital in Amman, and I helped get them out. And the reason why the Israeli military wanted the kids out but not their accompanying attendants is that so many of them were terrorists pretending to be an uncle, a grandfather, that's other terrorist. But I helped arrest. A few of them died. It was terrible. I think we saved 173. But I want to say something to you, Aaron, if I may, respectfully.
Let me just pause here. That's not the way the procedure works. In order for them to receive treatment at Israeli hospitals, Israel has to give the approval for them to come in. And there have been a number of times there have been Palestinians that were diagnosed with cancer that was not given that approval to come in, and they just simply die. So he's making up this story and he tells you, oh, me and RFK Jr. Really? I ain't heard RFK Jr. mention any of this. He just coming up with shit. Like, you see how you just come up with this stuff? Oh my God, I helped a couple of Palestinian children. That means I could not be biased or racist or prejudiced in any shape, way, or form. Joe Biden, who was president of the United States, co-wrote the crime bill to go after black men and then became Barack Obama's vice president, okay? So just because you had a friend who's of a different race or ethnicity, or you help someone of a different race or ethnicity, that doesn't mean you're still not a bigot. That doesn't mean that you're still not in favor of the ethnic cleansing, okay? So spare me the I helped out a Palestinian bullshit. Spare me that. There is nothing worse than when people have to get this. This is something that oppressors love to do. They love to stand up there and ask for a damn medal for doing something that you should just humanly do any damn way. Okay? They want a cookie for things like that. Oh, there were sick Palestinian kids and I helped them. You're supposed to. As Piers Morgan said, you're high profile, right? Everybody knows who you are, right? You support the state of Israel, right? So obviously, if the people are occupied or sick and you have the means and the resources to do so, you're supposed to. So stop standing up here acting like you're supposed to get a medal for doing something that you should have done any damn way. Period. That is just incredible logic. Everyone pay attention to that. I can't take too much more of this guy. Everyone pay perfect attention to that. That is something that oppressors will often do. I help those poor, sad little folks. So that you're not paying attention to how they're still controlling the people, how they're still participating in their occupation, how they're still participating in their oppression. You help the people go to the hospital, which I don't even fully believe that story in the first damn place. But the reality is you still want those people to be occupied. So you're full of it. That is colonial way of thinking. That's what that is. You see it happen here in the U.S. too, especially here in Massachusetts. The wealthier white liberals. I went over to Roxbury and I helped out Jamal. You should. You're worth millions. You ain't doing nothing else. Get out of here. Ay, ay, ay. If you want to watch the full thing, you can find it on Piers Morgan's channel. But be very wary of that, you guys. Be very wary of that. I can't stand when people do that. Oh, look at me. I tried to help this person. Da, da, da. Forget all of that. But I think Aaron really humiliated him. That little clip there went viral on Twitter. So that says a lot. Hey guys, this was a Sabby clip. If you like what you saw, hit that like button and subscribe.